Katie Porter is the first Democrat in history to be elected to represent California's 45th congressional district in Orange County. She's about 25 years younger than Elizabeth Warren, and watching Katie Porter at work in Congress now has the feel of what we might have seen if Elizabeth Warren had become a member of the House of Representatives 25 years ago. Like Elizabeth Warren, Katie Porter was a tenured law school professor when she decided to run for office. Katie Porter is a magna cum laude graduate of Harvard Law School, where one of her professors was the now Senator Elizabeth Warren. Senator Kamala Harris had a hand in Katie Porter's career. When Kamala Harris was California's Attorney General, she appointed Katie Porter to be the state's independent monitor of banks in a $25 billion mortgage settlement that brought reforms to the mortgage business in California. Now Katie Porter is a member of the most impressive freshman class of members of the House of Representatives that I, for one, have ever seen. And she used her 5 minutes today in a House Financial Services Committee hearing in a way that the witnesses did not anticipate. The CEO of Equifax was testifying to the committee today, and CEOs have very expensive lobbyists who prepare them for congressional testimony like this. Very expensive lobbyists who are supposed to anticipate every possible question, but Equifax's very expensive lobbyists did not anticipate Katie Porter.
My question for you is whether you would be willing to share today your Social Security, your birth date, and your address at this public hearing.
I would be a bit uncomfortable doing that, Congresswoman. If you'd so oblige me, I'd prefer not to.
Okay. Could I ask you why you're unwilling?
Well, that's sensitive information. I think it's sensitive information that I like to protect, and I think consumers should protect theirs.
If we gave that sensitive information were provided at this public hearing, what are you concerned about could happen?
I think, like every American, Congresswoman, my apologies, Congresswoman, I'd be concerned about identity theft. I'm actually a victim of identity theft. It happened 3 times in the last 10 years to me, twice with my tax returns, and once, as a consumer of someone opening up fraudulent credit accounts in my name. Somehow they got my Social Security number, my date of birth, and my address, and then changed the address and opened up the account. So I think, like all Americans, we're concerned about that. Okay,
so my question then is, if you agree that exposing this kind of information like that you have in your credit reports creates harm, therefore you're unwilling to share it, why are your lawyers arguing in federal court that there was no injury and no harm created by your data breach?
Congresswoman, it's really hard for me to comment on what our lawyers are doing.
Respectfully, excuse me, but you do employ those lawyers. And they do operate at your direction. They're your counsel, and they are making these arguments in court, arguing on the record. I have the pleadings here from the court case. They're arguing on the record that that this case should be dismissed because there is no injury and no harm created by the disclosure of people's personal credit information. Yet I understand you, as I would, to believe that that the exposure of that information, I asked you if you would give it to the committee, and you understandably said no, would in fact create a harm. So I guess I would ask you to please look carefully at what your lawyers are doing and the arguments that they are making, because I feel they're inconsistent with some of the helpful testimony that you've provided today.
The Honorable Katie Porter gets tonight's last word and takes her place among the rising stars of the freshman class of the House of Representatives. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.